to the Logins Den. Welcome our guest today, Lauren Hauck. Lauren Hauck, tell us what your major is and what are your favorite things about fitness.
Ooh, so my major, or like my general area of study right now, is psychology. I do my research in developmental psychology, so like over time, how kids grow, and then for my clinical side of things, like how I interact with like other people for therapy, that's also child focused, but clinical is my favorite, I would say, clinical psychology. So that's kind of like my major or area of study. My favorite parts of fitness. I mean, I feel like fitness is, for me, it's all about kind of keeping myself happy, keeping myself in shape, appreciating how I look and what I can do and how I feel. But I also really like the sports aspect and having fun. Like I like going and playing basketball and volleyball or doing something, the competitive aspect of being able to still be an adult and have that outlet of being competitive against other humans. So I like that a lot. Yeah.
I think especially sports, there's plenty of people who only do sports and it keeps them young.
Yeah.
Like I always encourage people to also throw some fitness in their life, but I really think I probably know some people that only do sports and that keeps them nimble and like keeps them moving, which is pretty awesome.
Even like my husband, who never works out ever, anti-worker outer, I'm so thankful that he has sports because that is key. That is his fitness. Even if it's playing volleyball 2-3 times a week, that's enough for him and it works. And I'm glad he has that outlet because that's all I'll ever have probably.
No, absolutely. Until we convince him otherwise, right?
That's true.
What has been your history of fitness and even sports? Like, when's the first time you thought about fitness? That you started engaging in it.
The first time I thought about fitness, I feel like I'm kind of having hodgepodge of things, and sports was the building block for me. So like I was in t-ball at 4, swim team by 5, which my mom had to like argue me in early or whatever. So I've always been in sports since a very early age, and I don't think I necessarily had my parents like breathing down my neck on, oh, you must also be fast and able to jump and all those things. It was just, let's play a sport and try and gain some skills and mobility, which was great. Fitness, in maybe an unhealthier way for me, kind of started in 6th grade. I was pretty chunky growing up, and my mom would just say that one day I woke up and decided that I didn't want to look that way, and at 12, basically 13, whatever 6th grade is, I got up at 6 in the morning and ran on the treadmill for 45 minutes. Like 6th graders don't do that, not particularly. And so there was something in me, like I wanted to look different and be different, and I had like some bullying going on, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna take my own like route of trying to resolve some of this. But I fell in love with it then in a much, I think, healthier way, because it really inspired me, I think, to do better. It was something like athletics and school-wise, I've always been competitive in both areas, so this was another thing that I could like pursue in an enjoyable way beyond even sports. Like I could go, lift and feel like pretty victorious as a woman, at least in high school. I was pretty good at lifting. So yeah, I think that was kind of where a lot of it sparked on my own initiative, not just I'm signed up for sports and I'm going to go to my sport and that's my fitness. Yeah. I
think swim team's an interesting one because it definitely is probably the most fitness driven.
Yeah.
It's techniques driven for sure.
Yeah.
But when it pertains to other sports, it's mostly skill based probably. But where swimming, it's like, hey, that one's probably the first touch of like fitness. Unless, did you do summer track growing up?
No, I never did track other than like 8th grade, and I hated it because it made me throw things and I wasn't good at it because I didn't get taught how. So yeah, was not a track fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, swim team, I also hated. It was not my favorite, which is funny because then I went on to coach swim team when I was like 18 and 19. So yeah, small world.
When it comes to to swimming or even running though, now that you do both, is it just more that's your enjoyable time? And do you put too much competitiveness on it unless you're like doing a race or something like that? Like when you're training for those, is it mostly enjoyable, or are you trying to hit numbers a lot of times?
Yeah.
Or throw me a percentage of like, oh, I just go out and run and have fun, and then sometimes I'm actually trying to hit a number.
Ooh. I would say recently it's like 90% enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've really just been okay with, I get so much out of it that's not actually necessarily me improving drastically in a fitness component. There are like 4 other things I feel like that I take away from it a lot more than just I want to lift heavier, run faster or longer or whatever. And I kind of think that's been the way for me since college. Once I was out of high school and stopped sports, it was my competitive outlet, but it wasn't that I was competing against anyone but myself.
Right.
And I was okay with that. And I think I've really always been okay with that. I can do races. I know I'm not going to win.
Right.
I'm okay with that, but I'm happy to like go get my own PR.
Yeah,
That's important for me.
So you did hodgepodge of sports as a kid.
Hodgepodge. Yes.
Threw in some fitness in 6th grade.
Yep.
And then high school, you lifted. Do you still run while you're doing sports, or does that go kind of by the wayside?
So in high school, I lifted a lot. That kind of, I think it gave me a good taste for lifting, but it was all powerlifting, and I got really bulky in high school.
Sure.
So I kind of like came back to my 6th grade phase in now a muscular way, but I still wanted more of like that feminine physique eventually, and I was like, if I keep just lifting heavy, probably not gonna achieve that.
Yeah.
So senior year, hurt my ankle, couldn't play basketball, which was my favorite sport in high school. I was so excited for my senior year since I was in like 8th grade. I was looking forward to that year, and I didn't get it.
Yeah, it stinks.
After I like got back from whatever my ankle injury, I then started running to try and like regain flexibility so that I can catch in softball, and that's when I started tagging in running, not inside of a sport. Like kind of I came back to that, not just running on the treadmill in 6th grade, but just going out and running my senior year, and I kept that into college.
So the sports you did were volleyball, basketball, softball.
Yep, volleyball, basketball, softball.
What did you do in the summer times in high school?
All 3 of those sports camps, and then worked. So
Yeah.
I worked at the pool though, so we were required to swim laps. I think my freshman year I did swim team, so I was in the pool still swimming sometimes. I didn't lose it.
Right. What I think is really interesting, which we're going to hit next, is just how you've been able to juggle fitness, which it sounds like more so was just sport focused in high school, and then how that transitioned to college, where you've always been academic and you've always taken it seriously, but then I think it probably even turned up even more. So if you could just give us what your undergrad looked like, because I think that looks different than most other people, which is really cool. And then even if you could tell us how many hours maybe you put in, even in the recent years in grad school, and how you juggle that. We'll talk about the juggling, but like throw us how many hours per week maybe academics work are in there.
Yes.
So first undergrad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. No, that works. So undergrad, I went to U of I. I was doing psychology and statistics, and I was kind of expediting the process, which is why my experience looked pretty unique. I was not at college for a college experience. I was at college to get a degree and get out, pretty much. Like I wanted the academic pursuits and the knowledge, but I wasn't there to go party or necessarily even socially connect to some degree. So because I got out early, I got out in 2.5 years. I was taking like 21 credits a semester, and typically people take about 15 credit hours. So 21 credits, you're in class now about, I don't know, I guess 21 hours, plus you're having 3 hours of homework, you could say, per class. That's a lot of hours.
It is. And you worked in the aquatic center,
And
right?
I worked about 15 hours a week. And then I think what really stretched it out was every weekend I drove home, which was a lot, I think, very taxing, and just like a lot of time to have 5 hours in a car for my weekend. So I don't know, I definitely was putting in, 15 hours a week for work, let's say at least 40 hours academically. I would argue probably more. I was also involved in research, so I did like 6 to 8 hours of research a week in a lab. And then I was driving home on weekends and trying to like maintain relationships with people that I did enjoy in my family. So that was a lot. And I used, I think, fitness to a large extent to kind of like make myself be able to handle that. But I also went the other way where I felt sick like a lot of the time during undergrad, and I even went to the doctor and I was like, what is going on? Do I have like some sort of dietary thing, or what is it? And it was just because I was so stressed out, is that my body was like revolting. And at least working out helped me manage some of that. But it got me where I wanted to be. And so we got through that phase while maintaining my fitness kind of goals of just being healthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you did undergrad, and would you say your relationship with fitness at that time while juggling was like, what was your enjoyment within fitness? Scale 1 to 10. 10 being like the best relationship you've ever had with fitness, 1 being like almost non-existent.
7.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, 7.
That's awesome. And we'll have to make sure we come back to how, like, maybe there's some points there that keep you successful, because there's plenty of people that try to juggle juggle life and fitness, and they either things come up and they can't prioritize it, or that should be thrown away, and it's really, I have to prioritize fitness and just figure out what else I'm doing. Right?
I love that. I think you're dead on. But...
So undergrad, like 40 to 60, right? Huge, but 40, 60 adulting, right? Where it's like school research work. And then you also threw in fitness in there, and it sounds like high levels of like enjoyment within that.
Yeah, high levels of enjoyment and high levels of consistency, which I think is something that I've always maybe valued more than even what I'm getting out of it. Can I be consistent?
Then you go to grad school.
Yes.
And do you feel like that you're now putting in more than undergrad, or the same, or less?
More than undergrad.
And we're talking academically / we're going to call it adulting. Okay. Well,
more than undergrad until maybe this year. This year I have felt some reprieve from that, and that's kind of how our program is set up. And I front-loaded a lot of classes so that I could have this year not be as taxing. But like last year I was kind of at the end of my string, I think. So that was my max. Like it was 60-hour minimum. Like I was every day, woke up, worked out, and then just worked basically until I could go to bed. And it was a lot. Yeah.
How many years was that?
That was 3 years. So I'm in my 4th year of a 6-year program right now.
So you said 3 years?
Yep.
3 years of like, we're throwing out 60 hours a week.
Easy.
Yeah. And then you also have to like keep with relationships and...
Yeah, like I'm married and trying to maintain a marriage and friendships. And I have a little sister that I was still going to sports games for. And there's a lot of things in life. So
your fitness generally occurs in the morning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
I am a morning fitness fiend, which has become even more early morning as of late.
Yeah.
And I think that's because of what it does for me mentally, is I want that right away. I drink coffee, but it's also like kind of the same experience for me, I think, as someone who drinks a cup or 2 of coffee in the morning. Gets me going. So, and I just like that then I know it's done. If you do it in the morning, you can't just keep saying, well, I'll do it tonight. No, it's done. And there's no more excuses. And now, no matter what the rest of my day looks like, even if I get awful emails, from professors, or if I get, I just have a non-productive day, I was productive from the get-go. So it sets the tone. Yeah. And that's, I think, huge for me.
And so then we're at this year where it's how many hours a week now?
I'm much closer to like 40 to 50, I'd say.
So regular human status.
I am a regular human, I would say.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, and then what would you throw your fitness love now? What number?
Probably a 9.
A 9?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think I'm way up there right now.
You travel less than when you were an undergrad?
Yes. Not in the car.
So that frees up time for real. Okay, cool. So let's go to the 5 components of fitness.
Yes.
Right? So I'm really interested in, for the listeners to hear is, you went from so much, like you had your undergrad and now your grad, and you're still a grad, but it's chilled out a bit.
Yeah.
But really also, it's important for us to go over the 5 components of fitness, because I think unlike other guests so far, you might be the most normalized, as in, so a more like rainbow version, right?
I like that you're saying that, because like in listening to some of the other podcasts, I did a lot of reflecting, and I was like, I am just kind of in the middle. Like I am a pretty average Joe.
Yes.
And where like, a lot of the other people that have been on have very like unique niches. I just enjoy fitness in general. So I think this will maybe be a more relatable
absolutely
comparison.
So we've got 5 components. We've got muscular strength, muscular endurance, cardio, flexibility, and we have body composition. Okay, so we can hit muscular endurance and muscular strength first. So muscular strength would be like maxing out, right?
Yep.
But it also could be in an explosive aspect. So how often you would train like jumping, right? And one, not like jump rope. Jump rope would be an example of muscular endurance because you're doing it over and over and over again.
Okay.
But a muscular strength version would be like, I'm going to see how high I can jump, and then reset.
Okay.
And then go again.
Okay.
So that is an example of muscular strength. But then also, hey, I'm going to load up my bench, see what my one maximum rep would be. And then training for that, you got like anywhere from 3 reps to 8 reps.
Yes.
Muscular endurance is how many times, like if you were to test it, how many times can I do this one skill as many times as I can? So it could be a bench, and you're like, I want to see how many times I can bench 135, right? Or 95 or whatever. Or it could be body weight. I want to know how many times I can body squat. Or pull-ups or push-ups. Things like that. That's muscular endurance. So what has been your experience with muscular strength, muscular endurance, and then what are you doing with it now, if at any?
Yes. So maybe like kind of comparing and contrasting. Strength-wise, I was probably at my peak in high school because I was lifting. That was my primary like fitness. It was lifting heavy. I like did the football program just so I could get their lifting experience in summers, high strength there. Whereas now I have recently really worked hard to build back in some weightlifting, even though it's not my favorite. And I think it's not my favorite because I know where I was and where I am now, and I'm bummed by that. So I would say do legs like once a week, and arms once to twice a week is my goal for strength. And I would rate myself as like pretty not great right now as far as that part.
So are you specifically talking about strength right now?
Strength.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but in your current workouts, are you doing more muscular endurance style?
Yes. I am definitely doing more muscular endurance in my workouts. I'm really trying to like recorrect bad habits on some things and just be more mindful of like my form, or like how am I breathing when I'm doing this. And I think it's kind of taken some pride, I think, from I'm not loading up the rack like I used to, but I am trying to like just kind of come back to that whole body fitness. I want to just be a more rounded human.
Recently I had gotten the best results with squatting via like mobility. But then I just wanted to lift more weights, and I was hitting it and it felt good. But then I think I kept consistently lifting too heavy and like made a jump too much, and then I was losing my ability and just hurt to squat because I got really tight in like my upper glutes, and it was like I can't do it. So then these last 2 weeks I've really toned it down. These last 4 weeks I started a new program, and it's more about tempo squatting, things like that. So it's like many times we would like hey, you're going to squat for 5, you're going to descend for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds,
Sure.
go up for 5 seconds. And it's like, well, I can't load the weight.
Right.
Because it's exhausting.
Yeah.
But I feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I still get what I'm searching for sometimes when it comes to lifting is that pump, like, oh my gosh, my legs are fried.
Yeah.
But I also feel good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Do you feel like you can still get fried even when you're just doing like lower weights and higher reps? Is that like you still get that experience,
yes.
or is it different?
No, it's absolutely the same, except now I get to walk away like feeling more mobile than when sometimes it'd be like, oh, I feel mobile, but then another hour later I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think when we go too heavy, like our muscles are working differently or compromising because like my wife's a physical therapist, so we were talking about like why does my glutes hurt and now like my inner groin hurts even more. Her theory is that like as the weights went up, my inner groin would work harder than what that was supposed to be working, which would have been my upper glutes.
Ooh,
so it's like so really I jumped the gun. Even though I was going through a movement and it looked good, the muscles that were supposed to be working weren't firing. So it's like, nope. Get humbled by the weight again, and it's really about, hey, can I still squat when I'm 40? And that's always the goal. Yep.
And I think that's so hard because not everyone has access to just like talk to a physical therapist. And so how are we supposed to like reflect and just know like, okay, like now I'm ready to move up? And I think I get intimidated a lot of times because I don't want to get hurt, or I don't want to, I just don't feel like I'm an expert in any of it. So I kind of just stay in this middle ground. Yeah. And I'm okay with that, I guess.
Absolutely. And then two aspects, it's like, man, you're told to like, hey, buck up. Things are going to hurt sometimes. And then being in that sport frame, we can kind of see that. And then two, like for me, when I go to the gym, I would ego lift sometimes, which I like lifting at my house now because I don't ego lift. It's like, nope, I just want to feel good. I have these wedges, and sometimes I'll just use those wedges because I'm more interested in going through my full depth squat. And if I'm feeling jammed up, I'll be like, oh, get the wedges. I'll go down, and if I'm feeling good, I'll just lift in my lifters or whatever. But
that's cool.
Yeah,
it's totally for you.
Right, where I'd be at the gym and I might be I'm like supposed to do this, and the rack next to me is doing something. I'm like, well, I can bench more than you. So even after I've done my working sets, I'm gonna just make sure I can actually bench more than you. And it's like, no, check yourself. It doesn't really matter.
But we do it. Like, we all do that, I think, even if we're not aware of it. It's happening. We're sizing ourselves up against everyone around us, and it's an unfortunate part of it. Yeah.
So that's what's been nice at the Loggins Den. It's it's just about moving well, feeling good.
Yes.
All right, so we did those. Maybe we're going to your favorite part, which is cardio, right?
Yeah, I would say that's my favorite part. What do I do?
Yeah, what do you do?
Okay, so I run a lot. And I run, I would say now, longer than I ever had, more consistently.
Throw out some distances.
So I would say for a long time, 3 was sort of like my just go-to run, 3 miles. Now I would say my minimum is 4, and I'm actually creeping more to a point where like I kind of think I could just do 6 as my minimum. Yeah. I love the feeling that I'm starting to get, kind of that more like euphoric, feeling of running at about that 5.5 mark, I find it. So I like 6 because I get that experience.
And are you pushing your runs? Is that where the euphoria comes from? Or is it just, man, I just enjoy being out here kind of thing?
I just think that I'm so content to have been able to be out there and running, and I'm outside. Like, it's all about being outside for me, seeing new things. Like, I use my running time for a lot of things. Like, that is my time to process anything I need to process. I try and like just be mindful, like for the first couple minutes of my run, like pay attention to where I'm at, what's around me, like what am I seeing. I've kind of gotten away from listening to things, which for a while I would not run. Even if I was running with someone, I'd be stressed if I couldn't listen to something. But now I've really tried to just like embrace the experience of it. So I listen to things more at the tail end of my run. And then it's also a time for me that I'm starting to use it probably these last couple months of just like prayer. Like once I've kind of gotten past that more mindfulness piece of it, then I feel kind of calmed down and really connected. So I pray. and then I normally listen to things afterwards.
Cool. So it's not always just music at the tail end. So do you podcast it up, or is it almost always music?
It's almost always podcasts.
Really?
Almost always podcasts now. Yeah. Like I listen to a variety of podcasts, and that's, I'm thinking about juggling. I think because I use that time for, it's not just my run time, it's my podcast time, it's my prayer time, it's my awareness and outside time. It covers a lot of things I need anyways. Yeah. So I think that's a part of like how I've used it to juggle, is because I get so much more than just my running and my fitness out of it. So
it was cool to talk to Sarah, the marathon runner, too, because she doesn't listen to any music.
Yes.
But her reasoning was cool too. It's just like, man, that was her time to zone out, where for her, like if she was listening to things, she felt like she couldn't work the things out that she wanted to. But it sounds like while you go through, you kind of go through those and then throw your entertainment
at the end,
which is really cool.
Yeah. But thinking distance-wise, I'm doing that kind of 6 or so. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to get to that point is more of my minimum. But right now, like, I'm in a phase of even longer. Tomorrow I'm running a half marathon, so I've been amping up and doing a lot of 10-mile runs. Yeah. And more my goal within that is I'm not going for a time tomorrow. I want to see if I can recover from a half marathon with no, like, knee pain.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome.
So I've really just slowly worked my way up. It wasn't even for the intention of doing like a race. Mm-hmm. I just want to see, have I been able to train my body better and feel good afterwards, and then maybe I will retinker the idea of a full. And because Sarah did inspire me listening to her.
Absolutely, because she has to juggle a lot too.
It was crazy. Yeah.
And so now, when you went longer, do you get up earlier?
Ooh. Yes, I would say that I get up earlier on those days. Yeah, because it's like double the time a lot of times. If I'm doing 5 miles versus doing 10 miles, now I mean twice as long. Yeah. So the 3 cardios you usually have enjoyed has been running, so that's your top dog. Yep. Cycling and swimming. Yeah. By just knowing you've done triathlons in the past, just sprints, never got to the Olympic because COVID came in and ruined our plan. Yep. Have you stuck with running more so than cycling because the duration of cycling demands longer, or is there other stuff? Like for me, with cycling, sometimes it's just like, it is duration. It's like, I could go for a 30-minute run, chill. Yeah. And if I went for a 30-minute ride bicycle, I feel good, but I don't feel like I really got a workout in. Where it might, if I'm going to chill, it's going to need to be from an hour to an hour and a half. I agree. Though, a 30-minute crusher of a bike ride, you're dead. Yes, absolutely. But I'm more so, since I enjoy all spectrums of fitness, and I'm not going after a race right now. It's like, man, I don't want to ruin myself for today. Yeah. Because then tomorrow I may not be able to do the workout I want to do, kind of thing. Yeah. Is that why you kind of zoned, like, not messed with cycling as much, or? So yeah, I think a lot of why I'm so pulled to running, even compared to swimming, if we want to throw that in too, is the ease of it. I can put my shoes on and go. I can wake up. Nutrition wise, maybe not the best, but I can wake up and not eat anything and go. I think that's fine. Okay. Yeah, my nutrition coach would say. I'd be interested to know why. Yeah, it's the ease. And with biking, I did get some weird, just worry about being on the road alone with cars. Yes. And just that, extra piece of it took away so much of this is my time to process, this is my time to, I didn't get that out of it. But I did like biking, and it's something that I am going to throw back in next year. I have on my bucket list to do an Olympic, and maybe even think about a half Ironman. That is something that I really think I'm ready for. So it'll come back. Swimming, I can still have a lot of that time to process. I wish I had a better way to count my laps. I just haven't invested in it yet because I don't like losing track. But today I swam, and my body feels fabulous after swimming. I would make an argument that out of those 3, it is, so this is my opinion, but the opinion is that it's my least favorite. Yeah. But my argument is it's the best for me because I think if you think about all the things you do when you meditate, it's all there. Yeah. Breathing,
like you're just there with your thoughts unless you have something to listen to, but even whatever. So, and you're staring at a line.
Yes.
Right? And that's it. You're not having a conversation with someone. It's just you, your thoughts, and then counting, right? A lot of times. And that counting could be laughs, but it could also be breathing or strokes. And you just do the same thing over and over again. And it's pretty wild. Like I've never left. I might have been disappointed I didn't get a time. Sure. But it's like, oh my gosh, I feel good. Yeah. But
even with swimming and even with biking, I would always more tend for those longer swims and bikes, longer for me, than like a go out and smash it. I'm just not as driven to go do that, which I think is why I haven't seen a lot of increase in my times, even though I would call myself like an avid runner. Like I haven't seen that because I'm not kicking it necessarily in gear. And I think a piece of that is just I'm out there more so for myself. Like to do what I like to do.
We'll move on in a second, but two things I thought I listened to this podcast with Marcus Philly. He's like this guy I'm all focused on right now. But he talked about why like he does his cardio piece in the morning. He's like a CrossFitter turned into his own. He calls it functional bodybuilding. Okay. But his argument is that what you are fueled for has everything to do with the day before. So because like if you think about our storage system, so if you eat like let's say you eat 20 minutes beforehand, right? It's like no, that's not gonna have your impact now because you're digesting blah blah blah. So he's saying like your sugar stores and all that jazz was all done yesterday, or pick your time frame amount, but it's not just an hour.
Interesting.
Now I have no evidence, but but that was, and I thought about that, and it's like there's plenty of people that do like exercise on an empty stomach. Yeah. Which one's better? I don't know. Yeah. But I think it's a safe thing, nonetheless, unless you're dealing with something. Right. But I'd be interested another time to find out why your nutritionist would think that as well. Yes. Because she's not pulling it out of nowhere. No. She sent me things. She has evidence, and I'm like, I don't know. Like everything with my fitness journey, I just kind of wing it, and I hope that I am doing it okay enough. Right. Mobility. Can you redefine mobility? Because I always am like, I don't still quite. So if we say flexibility, but the idea is full range of motion of your joints, right? Yeah. So if we think of a weightlifter who does like the snatch, their ability to catch weight over their head. Yeah. So your upper body flexibility, your shoulders have to be able to go overhead, but then you also are going to have to squat super low, right? Yeah. So it just means full range of motion within your shoulder joints, your hips, your wrists, your knees, right? And so that's all it is. And like more so things prohibit you from doing things, right? So like for instance, for my squat, like when I squat, I've tried to work on widening my stance. Yeah. Because if I ever wanted to do weightlifting, you really need to be able to go low enough where your hips can almost go between your heels. I've attempted that mobility and it hurts my hips, so I almost go into reverse. So now I've just accepted that I'm going to have a narrow stance for squat. Yeah. Work on ankle mobility because the farther my knees can go over my toes, the farther I can sit down. Okay. And the same thing, like if I think of volleyball, on a side lunge, I cannot get very low. Okay. And if you think of how many times a controlled lunge in volleyball comes in handy, it's all the time. Yeah. It's almost any play you have to lunge. Absolutely. Where instead I'm just extended and over and I have less control. Or if I watch Allison go after a ball, she will take a side lunge, like hip hinge backwards and go low, and she can pass better. Whereas I'm more stiff in my hips and I'm more extended and Yeah. So is mobility something you work on? So stretching, is it like, I would even say I don't particularly stretch right now, but when I'm squatting, I'm trying to make sure I go through my full range of motion. I'm not just stopping at 90, which I have no problem with that, but in my current life, I want to go as low as I can, and then, so I'm going through my full range of motion, knee flexion, and even within my hips kind of thing. Yeah. Side note, even like I have to really start working my shoulders because holding the bar behind my neck, I've gotten actually more stiff, so it's harder. I have to actually warm up to get in that position.
Okay.
Where other people, it's like, oh, it's no problem.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because
I'm generally a stiffer person.
Yep. Sure. Yeah. So I guess I would rate myself as pretty below average, I would say, for mobility, and I'm not working on it.
Right.
The squatting thing I relate to because I am trying to go back to healthier, just better habits. I am trying to have a really good depth in my squats and not just stop 90. And I think that is something I'm mindful of when I'm going through stuff, but I'm not really working on that to any degree. I think I take it for granted because I am still young and I am still moving really well, and maybe that'll come back to bite me. But for right now, No,
I mean, you can go through we've talked about like your knee stability. Like that's more important, I think, for you currently than if things aren't bothering you, then why work on it?
Yeah.
If you don't need a more range of motion, like you've already met what you need to do all your things.
Yes.
But if you find yourself like, holy cow, I can't do that anymore, then it's like, oh, gotta put that in.
Yeah, absolutely. That actually stood out. I did a HIIT class. I haven't done HIIT, formal HIIT workout in a long time, and it really destroyed me actually this past Thursday. But the stability piece is what kept standing out as like, oh, I really need to do this more because that is where I felt weakest. It wasn't the weights, it wasn't the cardio. Right. It was really just being stable in a lot of those movements where I was like losing my balance. And so it's something that I probably should attend to more, but right now it's not necessarily on my radar.
Cool.
Yeah.
So then we go to body composition. So body composition ranges from all of the above, right? It's fat percentage, muscle percentage, but it also are like, you can throw in genes, like things we can't control, but we can also control what we put in our mouth, right? Yep. Which is a big impact. So feel as free to speak as much as you want or as little as you want, but like maybe, so body fat percentage and muscle, but then like maybe even weight, your relationship with weight, and then even relationship with food. Yeah.
This is, I think, one that has been like my underlying battle for fitness. I mean, it's like I started because I wasn't happy with my body composition. I was a chunker, and that I finally was not happy about that. I think I don't know like numbers wise, like I know what I weigh, but I don't know like my fat to muscle. I don't know that about myself, and I'd be really curious to learn more. Yeah. But I do think it has been a goal of mine to, like, through not just cardio and starting to think more about what's going in my mouth, which like is a part of why I'm seeing an eating coach right now and really working on that, to control more of that percentage and cut out some of the fat and have just more muscle tone, because I'm adding back in not just the cardio but also the weights. So that's maybe a little bit more on my mind recently, trying to attack it from all the different angles and be more satisfied with my body composition. But I think for women, like, we have a standard put on us, and it's always been a battle to like go back and forth on, am I out here working out for the right reasons? And, you know, there's a line, I think a pretty fine line between, are we doing this because we want to be fit, healthy people, or because we want to look a certain way or be able to eat a certain amount of food? So I'm trying to be mindful about my relationship both with exercise and with food and how they work together.
No, absolutely.
Thinking about food more as fuel and being willing to fuel my body after I'm working out and be okay with what that means for like my appearance and especially like as a woman. Yeah.
Do you feel like you have plenty of time for like meal prep things? Is that something that ever messes with what you can put in your mouth or you don't?
I think it's more maybe my lack of knowledge. Like, I've learned a lot through seeking out other people giving me information on it for food.
Like how to make food or what food you should be eating?
Both. I'm like not good at cooking. I find no enjoyment in it, so I avoid it. But I think I finally started to find some things that are pretty like mindless for me to put together, but I know are hitting like all, you know, they're getting me the fats, the carbs, and the proteins that I need, and being more okay with that. I do try and set aside time to shop intentionally, to prep my meals intentionally. I kind of fall apart at dinner because my husband and I have such drastically different opinions, and still using dinner as a time to like come together, just like as a unit, and not just think about, okay, are we eating what I need to eat, or are we eating what you enjoy?
Right.
Trying to find a middle ground. So yeah, that's kind of like food.
Do you guys buy snacks at home?
Not often, I would say.
So I would throw
actually.
like little Debbie's and things like that.
No.
I don't know.
No. We like rarely have ice cream, I would say, in the
Yeah.
fridge. We don't really get snacks. I'll get like 100-calorie like cracker cookies sometimes, but like that's kind of it. It would be more like where I fall apart on, hey, it's 8 o'clock, let's go take the golf cart and get ice cream. That's more, because now it's a social outing.
Right, but at least you had to like make up your mind.
True.
So someone I was listening to talked about how, hey, don't keep any of that stuff at your house because it will take actual effort to go to the restaurant to go get ice cream, and the chances you get a whole carton of ice cream and eat it all alone is much less.
Yeah.
Like you might, even if you get a large is not a carton of ice cream.
Right.
So like I have an unhealthy relationship with sugar.
Yeah.
So like if it's in my house, it's gone.
Yeah.
I will destroy it. Like recently I bought like these nerd clusters that I've been going after, right?
Yes.
And I was like, I'm going to have a healthy relationship with these. I'm going to make them last. Nope. I destroyed 2 bags to the point where I felt ill. Like I was like, oh no, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
I'm like actually sweat. Like I've experienced sugar sweats before. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is happening. So, but if it's not, but I'll go a long time without any of that because it's like, it's not in my house, I won't eat it.
Yes.
So
I think that's, if it's not in your house, you won't eat it. But there's also a piece of, like, I fall apart, like, in social settings. If there's food, I'm, like, mindlessly eating. And that's where I think I fall off the edge. And there's some piece of me that still thinks that I'm trying to rework this. If I worked out and I work out hard, then I should reward myself with some sort of tastier food than just, like, what I'm fueling with. So I think that is why I feel like this, well, I deserve it because I did this. And maybe, like, to some degree, but if I want something, I want to be able to have the willpower to say, okay, I'm eating this because I want it, not because I had to do anything to earn it. And I think that would be more of a healthier approach for me, doing that more rarely. I was listening to 2 fitness podcasts that kind of, I'm going to use my own words, this is not what they said. Yeah. Like, okay, so homeostasis is like, you know, we're in this, which we're never really at because we're always, either way. But if I think of homeostasis with nutrition, of like, I don't need to count calories, don't need to do any, so the goal would be this, that my body knows what it actually needs, right? So that's what I hope my end goal would be, though that will always be changing because, like, depending on your age, possibly, you know, things might change, but that also could be related directly to muscle mass because muscle needs more, whatever. But this idea of like, oh, I'm hungry and that's okay. Like, and then there's the hunger where I need to actually eat. Yes. So it's like, it's just finding this on these 2 podcasts, they just talked about like, now it's not about so much writing or like counting my macros and all this jazz. It was more of figuring out, like, letting your body tell you what amount of food you should eat. But then that also means you need to be in a place where you're like, oh, this is what healthy feels like. Yeah. It's like, oh, this is a bit of hunger, but that's okay. Yeah. Because maybe I have to get to this place where it's like, you know, sugar has tricked me in thinking I need to eat it. So maybe I have to get away from that. But also, oh my gosh, I'm hungry and I worked out really hard, so I need to fuel my body. I need to fuel my body. So I struggle with that, and like, we don't really eat much meat at our house, which I think could really benefit, but maybe I should really just find like other whole foods I can figure out too. But the other thing that this Marcus Philly guy talked about is like preparation is a huge deal. Like a lot of times I'll watch like videos on my phone while I'm eating, and his argument would be like, no, be like present in your meal, chew your food. Like if you do get more whole foods, like you actually make, and if you really stick to that, it's like, oh my gosh, it actually takes time to peel this onion. Yeah.
Where it's like, instead of, I don't know, pick like, I love cereal, right? But like, you don't have a connection to that cereal.
That's true,
All you do is pour and put milk in. Whereas like when you do prep things, it's like, oh my gosh, that takes time to season this and to make things food. So having a better relationship with food is a goal of mine, but I'm not currently doing anything to really better that.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And the homeostasis thing, that to me, coming back to the body composition, but also some of the, maybe I'll call it genetics, but I don't really know. My homeostasis, and where I think if I really got to a point that I was honed in on that, I think it would keep my body composition at a place that I would be not satisfied with. Yeah. So it's kind of this battle of me understanding, okay, this is maybe what my body needs, and this is what my appearance or my body composition, whatever, would kind of be the result of that. And I fight it, and I don't necessarily want that. And I think that's when I maybe am not fueling my body appropriately, and sometimes, or I'm restricting, and I'm aware that I'm restricting, and it's not for the best of intentions. So there's a balance.
Do you ever have performance goals? I think those are huge, so that it's like, oh my gosh, I might be 3 pounds up on the scale or whatever, but I can now run this time or lift this weight X amount of times. Like, I think that helps even like me, where it's like, oh, I might not be as ripped as I've been in the past, but now I can move a little better. My hip doesn't hurt as much. I think keeping that in the foresight or the forefront, right? Like, that's the attention is more important. Though, like, I'm an egotistical dude. Like, I want to look good. I want to look good for myself, for my wife, and then like healthy or not healthy for like when others look at me. It's like, you know, I look good.
Absolutely,
like, so those are all hard juggling acts. And I don't really think any of those are actually bad.
Right.
But if one more so of how we care about others, thinking about ourselves, overtakes anything too high, I think that's when it gets bad. Or even if like we're too hyper critical of ourselves, that can also be terrifying. But
I fall, the hypercritical, I think, is where I fall into, and I have experienced, like, when I was at more of my lower weight, probably last year, it was not necessarily my athletic performance that fell off, but I was so low in energy that I was like unable to stay awake, and it wasn't a sleep issue. I was very good with sleep, and it doesn't seem like I have any, I don't know, imbalances with that. I was just genuinely unable to be attentive to things that I used to be at a certain weight, and it's about a 3-4 pound difference I felt out, where like me at a certain weight, you know, down is not peak Lauren, whereas 4 pounds up, maybe I'm not as thrilled with my appearance, but I know I can more so maintain it in an easier way and be attentive and perform in the other areas of my life I need to.
Talking to Brian, the powerlifter, like, he at one time just ripped, but now he would say that he's happier now because his goals are lifting heavier and things like that, and his body feels good. And Brian's still looking good, right?
Absolutely.
No, my buddy Seeger as well is just like at a time was more ripped, but he's like, dude, now I feel strong like bull, or like that, right? And it's like, you still look good, jazz like that. And appearances are tricky too, right? Because lighting has a big part of it, right?
Social
media does,
filters,
right? But like, you might see a picture of yourself like, oh, I don't look good in that. But it's like, but if you turned a little differently, you would have been like, oh my gosh, I look great in that picture.
Absolutely.
So just remembering those things when you are critical of yourself is like, that moment in time at that angle, I'm never gonna look great.
Absolutely.
But in this one, it's like, I do look good here. And be cool with that. So. All right, so I think we covered all 5. But let's talk about, like, what do you think makes yourself successful at being a really hard worker, keeping relationships, right? And also fitness, right? And we can let's talk too about how fitness makes your impact on maybe all those things as well.
What you saying it almost immediately made my brain go to, how does fitness kind of impact all those areas? And that's where the juggling act comes in general, I have very high standards for myself. And I think that there is a degree of I like very much believe we can do anything we put our minds to.
Mm-hmm.
Like that has been ingrained in me since a child, and I believe that. And I think that if there's anything that matters to you and you say you can't make time, then you're lying to yourself.
Right.
I think that I sleep a healthy amount and I accomplish a lot of things in my week. And I think it's being really efficient when I'm in things and not wasting time on social media, not wasting time. Like I don't watch TV really ever. Like I'm that person who's like, oh yeah, that actor. And I'm like, that actor? I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah.
I think that's been one of the biggest connects between everyone I've talked to so far, which I don't know if I really talked to about that with Randy, but screen time is a time sucker.
Yes.
And so recently I was doing a challenge on screen time, and the first 3 weeks I did a pretty good job. So the first 2 weeks I did an awesome job. Third week is what I think life would actually look like.
Yeah.
And then this last week I went back to regular, and I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
It's really these small things. It's so I made the rules, when I wake up, I just turn my alarm off, and then I get ready to work out.
Oh, I like that.
But then this week I went back to the normal, and I was like, I can just get on Instagram really quick, check, and then go on YouTube real quick and just watch. And I was like, oh crap, that 30 minutes before I work out when my friend comes over now goes super fast. I'm not as prepped.
Yes.
Whereas before I was like, I could read. So there's times where I read for pleasure, read the Bible, or I would stretch. And those things were all improving myself and stress relieving compared to just getting sucked into the phone, right? Same thing was the 3 rules where I could check it 3 times in the day. After my workout, lunchtime, and then dinner. But usually it was but I want to get in it on and off. So unless there was something I knew I was getting on YouTube for, I was not staying.
Right.
Where now this last week it was just I'm going to watch this and then watch this and watch this, or just scroll on Instagram. I was like, man, that's the whole reason I did the challenge in the first place. So I have to be more intentional about just putting it down.
Right.
I also was more invested in when Allison would talk to me. It's so my phone is upside down, I'm not messing with it.
I love that.
Where instead of I'm here. Or even the last night at the bonfire, it was just I was on I would just check it. It was why? It's just a dumb habit of just whoop, whoop. Instead, I could have just put it inside.
Yes.
And it'd been okay.
Oh, I think that's so wise. We're so trained to just we have to, that FOMO or whatever. We don't want to miss out on. We don't want to miss out on anything that maybe is new or going on. Yeah. And it's just a habit. We just fall into the habit, and I'm still highly imperfect in that, but I think cutting it out has given me so much more time and empowerment over my day. So
screen time for pleasure / just zoning out is pretty low for you.
That's true.
But your screen time and whatever, that's part of your work. I don't think that those two are comparable at all.
Sure.
Because work on a screen, if you're being proactive, your mind is working that whole time.
Yes.
Now, I do myself, where I'd be on and I'd have a YouTube tab on. Yeah. It's I click on it. Okay, well, that's all cumulative, where it's that was 2 minutes, that was 5 minutes. If I add it up, it'd be 2 hours. So, do you stay when you're working, are you pretty on task the whole time?
More so now, because I have used timers. The Pomodoro tactic is something that someone introduced me to in grad school, and it's you set your intervals, you're 20 minutes on, 3 minutes off. It's kind of what I do.
What do you do with the 3 minutes off?
If I'm working at home, I go fold clothes, I go cut an onion, anything little. It's proactive, but I'm not just sitting at my desk at a screen 100 million hours a day. And I think
there's been real studies to show your mind can only go for so long, and then you lose. But if you take those quick breaks, then it goes back up again.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the timer has made me more attentive. But that's kind of, screens, TV, cutting that out. That's a part of the balance on my work and my school and my family relationships and fitness.
Right.
I think the other 2 main drivers on how I balance those things even when it's insanely busy, is one, I schedule.
Yeah.
I never just wake up and say, or I guess I never go to bed and think, well, I'll figure out when I'm going to work out tomorrow.
Yes.
I know exactly what time I'm going to work out every day next week. It's rigid, and that does not work for some people, but for me, it makes it happen because it's on my calendar and I know I can accomplish that and everything else I need to, because there are so many hours in the day. And because I have a schedule, there are problems with my flexibility and things, but I am getting to everything because I'm not wasting time at the gym. I get very frustrated when someone stands there and talks to me for 20 minutes at the gym. I'm like, I have a timer going for 60 minutes in and 60 minutes out, and I know what I need to accomplish. And so there are issues with that tactic, but it works for right now. The other big driver of it is just being really aware of my values. And I think more probably in undergrad, I started being aware of there's X amount of hours in a day, and they're entirely up to me. I don't have to be in school. I don't have to have a job. These are all things we choose to do with our day and what we're going to pursue. So how can I make every hour, as best we can, be in pursuit of one of the things that we value most, and that's satisfied living for me. So I think it's because I'm choosing things that are fueling me. It makes me able to do it every day again because they're intentional, important things in my life. They're not just, I go to the gym because we're supposed to go to the gym and that's what the doctor says. No, I value being healthy. I value keeping myself fit. I value what it does for my mental health, so I get it done. I value learning things, so I am a perpetual student. These are all things I've chosen. Time
frame between the end of your workout to when you start working on academic things?
I allot myself 45 minutes to shower and get ready and grab my pre-made breakfast. And so 45 minutes.
I'd be curious, I don't know what the study, the number was for this study, but a lot of time, they've done this with certain PE classes where you load up this specific intensity you want to get for and the duration, right? So you do that. And then right afterwards, and I don't know what the time frame was afterwards, is when you should do your hardest subject.
Ooh.
Because all the things that was released, I think it was called BDNF, but it's this miracle. They call it this PE guy called it the miracle grow for your brain.
Cool.
And so does neurogenesis sound?
Yes.
Okay, so that's laying new.
Yes.
Okay. So BDNF is almost like you think the asphalt, to laying these new grounds, I believe. But it's those things are released during cardio. I don't know about lifting weights.
Sure.
But there's something to do with cardio, with your heart rate up and jazz like that is released, right? So, but afterwards, then they would try maybe math. And then they compared it, and it would be oh, those math scores were actually higher, or whatever and it improved. So they, I believe, showed the connection or whatever.
That's great.
And then you have all the added bonus afterwards of oh my gosh, you feel good. And if you're actually struggling with anything, have you talked to anyone in your field about them using exercise as a prescription at all?
Not in the sense that that's their sole prescription of things, but absolutely is it something that we are considering for treatment. And when we conduct assessments at my placement right now, we almost always are addressing you have to be thinking about your child's nutrition intake, their sleep, and their activity level, because a lot of times when I kind of start treatment with someone, I kind of lay the groundwork on, hey, if you're not sleeping and eating right, we can problem solve those areas, but it's really hard to be productive and all these other really higher order things in our life that don't get priority if we're not taking care of these lower level, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're not taking care of our lower level things. We really can't productively address some of these higher order things. So take care of your basic needs and let's problem solve and work around the limitations to why you aren't able to do that. Could be financial, could be time, could be mental. We can problem solve that. But you have to get those nailed down really, and then you can kind of move up and address towards that like self-actualization at the top.
I think us just as Americans being reflective, right? So like if you think about whether people do it through prayer or if they're not religious, like the idea of just being reflective in general, whether it's meditating or just asking yourself like, oh, is this what I like? And if we split up sections in our life, right? So one of those being nutrition. I wonder how many Americans are actually reflective about their nutrition, or if they just rode this life like, my parents did it, we do it, and we're very much in like quick food style. And I think it's really our parents or their parents' generation that really started happening, where it's like the frozen meal came out in their era, things like that. So it's like they were never told that was maybe not the best way to do things, right? Where Whole Foods may still be the reigning king, right? So, and then just the fact that sugar's everywhere. And it's so tough. So I wonder, like, our kids sometimes I think are up the creek without a paddle because their parents may not even know that they're not really helping their kids by just giving them just these what are deemed healthy foods. And it's like, no, it's actually loaded with sugar, and if maybe just fruits and vegetables and nuts would go a really long ways. Another thing I'm interested in that I'd like to look into is just like, are we feeding our kids too much possibly? Like, I don't know. When I look at lunch at school, I'm thinking, I don't think they actually need all that. Because if you looked, I would love to see a study sometime of like food given to food eaten at school. And it'd be interesting all across the board, all financial of the kids' background, right? Like from poor to rich of like food eaten. Like, do we have just like, is pickiness part of it? Whether like, let's say a student may come from a poor background. Are they eating their whole meal, or are they throwing it away? Or maybe they, majority of kids that come from a lower economic status eat all their food. And then, so I'd just be interested in that. But when I look around, it's like, when I do lunch duty, it's like, there's so much food thrown away. So it's like, maybe we actually need to feed them less.
And I wonder, since you were talking about like the generational thing, like my mom grew up in a time where you finish what's on your plate because that's that we don't waste. And I think that came from such a good spot because, that generation was coming out of a time where we didn't just get like, super inexpensive food all the time and it was easy. But maybe that's not the best tactic is eat your vegetables first, but if you're not going to eat all your pasta, that's okay. No big deal.
Or maybe instead it's just like, eat all you can. What if you don't finish? You're eating tomorrow. Like, that would be, I think, a good one of like, this is your meal till you finish it. So if you want them fresh, you can eat now, but you'll have it for lunch tomorrow, and that'll be okay.
And then you like that,
that'd be pretty interesting. But so back to, if we kind of wrap it up on the idea of overviewing one more time of what has made you successful, we would say limiting screen time. Prioritizing, I would argue that rigidness and prioritizing go hand in hand. It kind of needs to be that way. And then if we think of most of the guests that have been on the show, most of them work out in the morning, excluding, I believe, Haley does it after work, and I think that kind of has to happen for her. And then I don't know when Randy would do his, he did daily routines that keep him mobile and push-ups and sit-ups, but most of his stuff that he would do was sport related. So I don't know what time that specifically happened, but before your day started, it was like Sarah did it in the morning. Brian the powerlifter did it in the morning. You do it in the morning. I currently I do it in the morning. Like when school started, it was like, I gotta work out before I go to school. And it really, I think, puts me in a good mood, especially last year when we taught all of PE via online. It's kind of in a low place. And I got like a pretty good upper in the morning. That it did feel like kind of a high. It was like, poof, I feel good. We got worked out before I went to school, and I'm like, and then it would kind of wear off maybe by 10 o'clock, but those were some awesome
Absolutely.
in the morning. So
yeah.
Anything else that you feel like, yeah, this really helps me stay on track for fitness?
The values, I think, it's all in pursuit of things that are important to me.
Yes. Do you, because I think, like, if we follow, Brian and Sarah, they follow a plan, right? So she has a running program.
Yeah.
Brian has a program that he's following. Haley would, for a CrossFit gym, she's not making it up, she's following a program.
Yeah.
Are you winging it? Which I think has its pros and cons, if you are winging it. But I also think that's very relatable to other people of like, go ahead. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I am winging it, but I could not like outline exactly what I'm going to do. Like Mondays aren't this, Tuesdays aren't always that. I have some routines. I kind of think I tend to work in like more of an 8-day schedule.
Okay.
On like what's getting done between like running and my lifting and.
How many days do you run a week?
I would say that I run probably.
Even this 8-day schedule, sorry.
5.
So 5. So you're running 5 times.
But I run on my arm days.
Okay, so you're doubling up. You're doing.
Yeah. I which again, you can, whatever. I'm running on my arm days. And I'm doing a leg day. And then I probably run 2 more times. And then a leg day. And then I'm doing like an alternative type workout, the HIIT. Or I've been swimming a lot more frequently. Or a bike ride.
So out of those 8 days, how many are all working out and how many are resting?
That's hard. I would say I'm probably like 1 rest day among the 8.
Yeah, but a lot of times it's not like high intensity, so it's not as big. Yeah. So 1 out of the 8 is a rest day. You double up. So then when you double up, are you doing morning and another session later, or is it roll over?
I normally just roll over in like 1 longer session.
So it's more than 60 minutes?
Most of my workouts, I would say, are now 60 minutes plus.
60 minutes plus.
Almost always.
And that includes your cardio and your lifting pieces.
Yes, like my arm days, I am running, 3 to 4 miles, and then I'm doing maybe 40 minutes of arms and abs. And then on my leg days, I'll do like a brief cardio, like on the elliptical warm-up, and then I'll do like 45 to 60 minutes of lifting. And
the gym is within a 5-minute walking distance from your house, right?
3 minutes.
Which that makes a big difference. I find that just having my gym in my basement is just like, oh my gosh. I can sometimes just, if I want to just move through squats, like I don't have to go to the gym to do that. I can just go downstairs and do it. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, I can walk outside my door and go run 11 miles and I didn't blink an eye.
And then, right. So for running, and then even so, like, do you ever go for a run and then finish at the rec and then go in?
That's my arm days, because I still want that outside time, value that, run outside, land at the rec, go inside, do arms.
Do you ever lift no music? Or are you lifting?
Yeah, lifting I almost always need something.
Oh,
that's
me too.
Not much of like a process time. It's let's do what we gotta do.
I experienced some benefits of resting mean face at the gym, whereas you said people come up and talk to you for 20 minutes.
Ooh.
So even if I didn't have music on, earbuds in, our friend Bobby, people would come up and talk to him. I think he looked too nice. You gotta look mean.
Sure.
And no one will talk to you.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just stay on. Like, even though, like, I would, we just talked about screen time like this. You just look at your phone between, and then you go in so no one's talking to you.
Yeah.
Or just limit your rest time.
Yeah.
Or things like that. And I wonder if, or just like,
Sorry.
Sorry.
Keep going. Which is so rude, but like
it is, but at the same time, it's not, because the gym might be social for other people, but you might. But
catch me in the hallway afterwards, and I would be in way more chattier.
But and also like I only have 60 minutes, so I kind of gotta go.
Yeah.
And if they think that's rude, it's like, oh well.
At least you told them your thoughts.
Yeah. Right, and so the last thing would be on the reason I asked the question of like, if you have a strategy or a program, it's like, maybe you don't, but at the same time, you've used all the things you've learned in the past. High school did do a pretty good job of like, because they did like or maybe it was a 2-week window, 3-week window of a 3x10. Then you went for a 3x8, and then you ended 3x5, and then a short 3x3. So at least you know, hey, we're changing up the reps and weight.
Yes.
So you learned that from there. You've ran, so you kind of know what you like and things like that. So
but I would argue I'm an ugly runner, and I think most people would say I'm
like how you run?
Yes.
Yeah, you're an ugly runner.
Yeah, I'm an ugly runner.
I'm more talking about like your workout composition, right? So it's like, within these eight days, like I need to do this time frame for my goal. Yeah. Even if it's a vague goal or whatever, it's like kind of.
And I'm trying to stack them in those 8 days in a logical way. I'm not doing, I run 4 days in a row, and then I do arms, legs. Like I am trying to give the variety. That way, if I am not building in that rest day that I'm hoping to do more so consistently, I'm resting the different areas at least a little bit. So it's not the same. But
fitness goals right now are more vague for you?
I would say they are more vague for me. This kind of long distance is a goal that I would like to maintain. I want to I don't want to have to train for a half marathon. I want to be able to say, oh, there's a half in 2 weeks. Let's go. I could do it. That's kind of like a longer term goal. And then I'm thinking more about increasing my muscular strength and endurance. That I would like to see amped up. But also just with winter, I just need to be consistent because winter's always a hard time, thinking about the mental health kind of component.
Do you have a hard time running in the winter?
I do, because it's not the same experience as being outside in any other season.
You don't run outside? Or you're saying just the experience outside is not the same?
The experience outside is not the same because I'm thinking am I going to slip on ice? I'm kind of trudging more. Or I will suck it up and go to the treadmill. And that's hard because now I can't just run without anything.
Treadmill workouts for me have to be goal oriented or else it's terrible.
It's hard. It's really, and it's not as pleasant on my knees, and not my favorite thing. Yeah. So that's a bummer. Yeah.
Cool. Well, it seems like I hope people can relate to the idea of hey, I have a general goal of just being happy with fitness.
Yes.
In which you dabble in all of it, which I think is a really healthy way. In that, talking to all the other guests too, of Brian made sure he walked with his wife. That was part. So that's his cardio piece, is going for long walks.
That's cool.
And then lifting, right? CrossFit is a hodgepodge. So I love the idea.
Cool.
For me personally, I just don't love the idea of going all out every time. And maybe that's really not the piece, but that's just kind of what I see from it.
Yeah.
And then sport-wise, it's awesome. But I would argue I kind of do fitness so I can be doing sports and be good at it.
Yes. I agree with that.
And then I think marathoners are their own mind piece.
Yeah, they're pretty incredible.
Yeah, so.
It's a goal one day.
All right. Lauren, thanks for being a good guest.
Thank you very much to the Loggins Den.
Yeah, absolutely.
Woo-hoo. Love it.